As you can tell by this diverse plethora of videos, I love Zelda. But what if I told you it isn't actually my favorite franchise? It's close, it's my second, but my favorite is actually Pokemon. And guess what? The newest games just came out and I had an absolute blast playing through them. Scarlet and Violet introduced us to a ton of new amazing Pokemon to play with and a good number of stinkers. And I am gonna rank them all. Here's every new Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet ranked from worst to best. Let's go. First up, at number 107 is the worst new Pokemon, Squawkabilly. This is literally just a parrot with a pompadour. It's weak, doesn't evolve, and its only purpose is to be Corviknight's replacement in the taxi service. Next, Bramblin is just a tumbleweed with eyes. Fun idea for a desert, but very boring. Tinkatink is more inspired than the last two, but I can't lie, I just think it's so ugly. Orthworm was funny when it popped out of the ground looking the way it does, but after that initial surprise, I realized how stupid it actually looks. Spidops' pre-evolution Tarantula is pretty cute, and I was excited to see what it evolved into. When it went from Spider Yarnball to Special Ops Military Spider, I was way caught off guard. Not just that, but in-game, this Pokemon just looks stiff and awkward, and I don't like its flat hands. Quaxwell might just be the worst starter design ever. I know the middle stages are supposed to represent like awkward teenage years, but this design takes awkward to a whole new level. Oinkologne is a disappointment to Lechonk. They could have took that design anywhere and they decided to go the cologne perfume route. Personally, I would have doubled down on the Chonk, but hey, that's just me. At number 100 is a Pokemon that rivals Seal with its simplicity, that being Flamigo. Just take one letter out of the name and make its neck tied in a knot so it doesn't vomit, and call it a Pokemon. Seriously, I would have rather seen them be super cliche and make a flame flamingo instead of just a flamingo. Toadschool is, well, cool because it's a new type of regional variant, but something about this design just makes me feel weird. Something about those feet and imagining it plopping around, I don't like it. Brambleghast is just trying to be like Trevenant and Gourgeist, but failing miserably. Dolliv would be fine on its own, but the reason it's so low is because it ruined Smoliv. This small boy did not need the cliche feminine grass-type treatment like Blossom, Roserade, Lilligant, Eldegoss, Sarina, the list goes on. Lokix is trying to be cool, but just looks off to me. It doesn't look as humanoid as a lot of other Pokemon, but it walks the most like a human does in the overworld, and it's just a little strange. Cloth. People love Cloth, and I'm gonna get boiled alive for this, but I just think it's kind of boring. It's a crab that can blend in with rocks. I'd rather dinner. Varoom makes me feel bad for ever calling Zubat annoying. This thing drives into me every time I go into the rocky area, and it is so annoying. Nimble is the first of the Pokemon that I don't really dislike, more so it's just a decent, plain bug type. Pawmot is almost good, but it's trying too hard to be an anime protagonist. I gotta be honest, when I first saw Tandemaus, I thought it might be the worst Pokemon ever, but I grew to think it's actually pretty cute after I saw it open its mouth for some reason. Iron Bundle is fun because it's a new form, but then after that wears off, you kind of just realize it's just Robot Delibird with not a whole lot different. Glimmora is in this weird category of Pokemon that I just have no emotion for, good or bad. Kind of like Carbink, some rock with a face thing that floats around. I don't know. Up next is Lechonk. I know, pig slander. Lechonk's name is funny meme, haha, but looking past that, it's just a pig Pokemon. For the record, I didn't understand Wooloo hype either. Tarantula is the other Route 1 Paldea Pokemon you find, and I think it's a little cuter than Lechonk. This could have also just been because I saw Lechonk early in trailers, but Tarantula was a surprise to me, so. Revavroom is semi-decent, and being kind of the star of Team Star is cool too, but I think a Pokemon that is literally a car is a little much. I can understand some object Pokemon, but a car is, like I said, a little much for me. At number 85 is the Dunsparce. I'm glad that Dunsparce got an evolution, but it just seems a little disappointing after people have asked for so long. Honestly, I think this is exactly what Dunsparce should evolve into, but it should have been in Gen 2 or Gen 4 or something. Waiting until Gen 9 for a normal evolution rather than a crazy evolution makes this decent Pokemon seem disappointing. Maschiff has a fun character idea in that it tries to look scary but fails. I respect it, but it still looks weird. Glimmet really has no personality, kind of like its evolution, but something about it is still a little cute and does feel like a creature that could be living, even if not super compelling. Tinkatuff to me is the definition of mid in this generation of new Pokemon. After this, it starts to get a tad positive. Flittle is cute, it's an ostrich egg, but can still function with its little face and little legs. When I first saw this thing, I was excited to see its evolution. Next up is Shroodle. At first, I thought it was weird, but I've been warming up to it. Plus, I realized that it has Doodle in the name, which just made me like it even more. Speaking of warming up though, this is probably a good time to say that my opinions on these Pokemon will probably change like tomorrow, and they will definitely change when the Sugimori art of all of them come out, because sometimes I think their true personalities that don't show in-game come out in that art. After Shroodle is Paldean Tauros Combat Breed. Tauros deserved a new form, but this one is pretty lackluster, honestly. It's really just Tauros, but black and less cool horns. Wugtrio is the new evolution of Wiglet, and I like it more than Dugtrio, I think, but like, Dugtrio, it's pretty basic, so it gets a spot right here. Rellor is the new Dung Beetle Pokemon. There's nothing wrong with it, and in fact is a good idea for a Pokemon, but at this point, it's just a normal bug type. Goldango is definitely a fun design, but the proportions are just weird to me. If it had the same concept but slightly different design, I think I'd like it a lot more. Similarly, next is Goldango's pre-evolution Gimmighoul. Gimmighoul is a fun Pokemon with a neat gimmick of finding it in chests in the overworld. However, I just never really connected with it, though I do like it. Tinkaton just makes me laugh. The hammer is comically huge, and it likes to just throw it at Corviknight flying around. I don't love the design, but I still respect this Pokemon. Mabostiff is a little disappointing as a dog Pokemon this generation next to Houndstone and Darkspun, but it does have its own story in this game, and that made me feel for this Pokemon a lot. Wiglet isn't anything special design-wise, it's very basic actually. However, this Pokemon started a new era of regional forms, kinda not really, by being created, and I'm excited to see where the idea goes in the future. Finizen is the much-awaited Dolphin Pokemon. I think it's okay. I didn't really care that there wasn't a Dolphin Pokemon, to be honest, but I think it's cool we have one now. It's a Dolphin, it's cute, it's solid. Sandy Shocks seems to be the ancient version of Magneton. This design is cool, but it's my least favorite of the ancient Paradox. Speaking of ancient Paradox Pokemon, at 69 is Brute Bonnet. I like this form more than Amoonguss, but I'm still just not really a huge fan of these Pokemon that look like this, Ferrothorn, Cradily, etc. Cyclizar has a good design, but gets crazy overshadowed by the legendaries since you get to ride those instead. Palmo is kind of pointless, it's just Pawmi stood up. However, since it's just Pawmi stood up, it's still super cute. Fluttermane is a cool nod to the Misdreavus line, who rarely gets any love, and I respect this Pokemon for that. Bombirdier is a little lackluster, but I do like the idea of an evil stork carrying rocks rather than a good stork like carrying babies or something. I can honestly picture a stork Pokemon kind of like Kangaskhan with babies in its pouch, but the Pokemon Company decided to do basically the opposite, and I think that's cool. Arboliva is a regal olive tree with an interesting design. I still think Smoliv could have been something so much better, but I accept this evolution. Bellibolt is a fun frog design, and I think I'm going to use one on my playthrough of Violet whenever I get it. My one complaint is that I think the things on its head should be the real eyes. The little smiley face is funny, but I think it would look more like a wild creature if the fake eyes were real. Rabsca is not what I expected when I evolved my Rellor. I was picturing a beetle with just like a huge dung ball, like absolutely preposterous amounts of poop being rolled around, but no. Instead, the beetle grew a mustache and the poop got psychic powers. I don't get it, but I'll take it. At first, I really didn't like Mousehold, but after looking at it more, it really started growing on me. I just think the parent mice with the little babies by them is so cute. Unlike Bellibolt, I think Tadbulb pulls off the smiley face look and is really cute. Scovillain is like ridiculously ugly, but it's supposed to be evil, it's a villain, so I understand it. I also love that they finally cracked and did the fire and grass type Pepper. I get the idea that they've been trying to come up with a fire and grass type for a while and didn't want to do the obvious Pepper Pokemon, but this generous they finally caved and went with it. Where Toedscool looks strange, Toedscruel makes up for it and looks like a menacing mushroom Pokemon. It kind of gives me Cacturn vibes, stalking you and standing there menacingly.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Farigiraf is the correct way to give a Gen 2 Pokemon love. Seriously though, Farigiraf is a pretty cool evolution to Girafarig, though I would have done it a little different, I can't complain. Nacli is my cute little rock dude, and that is all I have to say about that. I feel like Wattrel is one of the most Pokemon looking Pokemon this gen, like it could have come out of Gen 4 or something. It's solid. Seeing Capsakid was an important part of my playthrough of Scarlet. I saw this little dude running around and really wanted to use it. I saw that it was a Pepper Pokemon and thought, no way, this is going to be a Fire Grass type, finally. I evolved it and was kind of disappointed. I really like Capsakid, but it is like the mascot of the slight disappointment that I got from a lot of the Pokemon this generation. The 3 different breeds of Tauros was an interesting decision. The combat breed is pretty lame, honestly, but that leaves 2 other breeds which are actually good. Right here is the Aqua breed, a water and fighting type Tauros. I wish this was an evolution rather than a different form, but other than that, it's a solid Pokemon. I wasn't impressed with Fidough when it was first revealed, but its cuteness has slowly grown on me, and now I think it's super cute. Veluza really has nothing special going for it other than cool factor, and honestly, that's enough. It's a single stage fish Pokemon, but it's better than the others in this category like Luvdisc, Alomomola, Bruxish, and whatever else. Charcadet is both cute and cool and gives me strong Riolu vibes. The only reason it's not ranked higher is because I haven't used and got attached to one yet. Grafaiai is next, and I feel like I can weirdly relate to a lot of people in saying that I don't really know why I like Grafaiai, but just do. I think it's something to do with the graffiti inspiration, and everyone subconsciously thinks it's cool. I think it could have benefited from an evolution, though. Espathra is another Pokemon that I just kind of like for no real reason. I think we're at just a weird part in the list, to be honest. Espathra is a cool ostrich Pokemon that I plan to use on my Violet team when I play it. Cetitan was one of the first Pokemon revealed for this game, and I understand why. It's a pretty solid whale Pokemon, though I gotta say, I'm kinda scared of what that mouth might do. Tatsugiri is really cute and has a neat gimmick with a Pokemon called Dondozo. What's letting Tatsugiri down is the fact that you obtain it so late in the game and doesn't evolve, so it's pretty weak. Screamtail is the ancient form of Jigglypuff, and I gotta say, I like it more than Jigglypuff. However, I wish they chose a different Pokemon to make an ancient Paradox form from. This was not necessary, in my opinion. Houndstone is actually a scary looking Pokemon, and I love it. I think it gets overshadowed by other dog Pokemon though, unfortunately. Greavard pulls off the sad, dead dog thing better than Houndstone. Houndstone looks cool, but if it's really a dead dog Pokemon, I'd be scared rather than comforted by it. Greavard, on the other hand, is dead, but is actually cute. Frigibax is the first stage of the pseudo-legendary line in this game. I used one in my playthrough, and I think it's adorable. Palmy is here purely for cuteness. I wasn't huge on the design when I first saw it in the trailer, but after seeing the official art, I fell in love with how cute it is. Chugging along the cute train is Smoliv, the smallest little boy. If I could use one of these on a team without evolving it, I would, but unfortunately, cuteness won't cut it against Mamigita. Wo-Chien is the first of the legendary quartet presented in this game. All of them are super cool and some of the best legendaries in a while, but big bulky things just aren't my style for the most part when compared to sleeker, faster designs. When Paldean Wooper was revealed, I was super interested in using one because I was excited to find out whether a new evolution would happen or if we would get a regional Quagsire. Clodsire is kind of a combination of both. Obviously it's a new evolution, but you can't tell me this isn't a melted pocket chocolate Quagsire. Iron Jugulus is honestly basically just robot Hydreigon, but that doesn't mean it isn't awesome. Plus, its name is A Metal as Hell. In all honesty, Citadel is not cuter than Smoliv, but the reason it's up higher is because I knew Smoliv was in the game. Citadel was a total surprise and made me smile all stupid, kinda like its mama. Wooper is a classic at this point, and Paldean Wooper is just some deserved love by Game Freak. Know who else deserves love? Me, Domadoodle. If you made it this far, do me a favor and leave a like on the video. If you want to see more from me, go ahead and subscribe too. You can also always unsubscribe. Iron Thorns is basically robot Tyranitar, and I gotta say, I prefer regular Tyranitar. That doesn't mean it's not super cool though. I mean, it's based off of Tyranitar. How could it not be? I wasn't super impressed with Slitherwing at first when you battle it in the story, but after going and finding my own to catch, I realized these bugs are absolutely massive and my respect grew a ton. Is this what it feels like to be a girl? Iron Moth is the future form of Volcarona, and the super future form of Slitherwing, and I like it a little bit more. For the most part, I'm not a huge fan of the future forms when compared to the past forms, but I feel like this one works really well. Blazebreed Tauros is how cool just Paldean Tauros should have been. I don't think we need 3 different forms, especially when this one blows the others out of the water. Something about it and its twisted tails reminds me of Kratos, and that's never a bad thing. When Armarouge was first revealed, I really didn't like it. In its official art, the legs just look way too bare for me. After seeing it in game though, I changed my mind completely, and now I think this Pokemon is seriously awesome. I can't even lie, Quaquaval is quite the ugly duckling in a lot of ways. It's definitely not one of my favorite designs ever, but I just can't jump on the starter hate train. I don't hate any starters. I feel like all starters are given more personality than the average Pokemon, and even though this one is kind of ugly, I can't help but like it. Dondozo was a huge surprise for me when I first saw it. It was huge and caught me way off guard. I love catfishing, and the giant mythical catfish are always cool to me, like the ones from Zelda for example. Baxcalibur is the final evolution of the pseudo-legendary for this generation. As I mentioned earlier, I used one in my playthrough and it was super strong. What's bringing it down is honestly just the mechanics of it. What I mean by this is the way it uses its new signature move, Glaive Rush. This is cool, but also like, what? Arctibax is the pre-evolution to Baxcalibur, and I like it just a little bit more. It's not as strong or as plain cool, but I still like its design better. It's the perfect blend of cute and cool, and definitely up there as one of the best middle evolutions ever. Iron Treads is the future Paradox form of Donphan. This form takes the rolling aspect of Donphan and, rolls with it. Granted, it doesn't look like an elephant anymore, but it is a terrifying rolling beast. I imagine this thing rolling through the desert at high speeds, leaving huge dust clouds behind it. Meowscarada is the bipedal Sprigatito evolution that everyone was crying about possibly happening. Everyone except for me. Am I the only one that doesn't care if a starter stands up or not? I'm not saying the design is fantastic or anything, it's just fine, but it's not as bad as everyone says it is. I respect Meowscarada because Nabona absolutely destroyed me the entire game with its Flower Trick move. At first, before I realized this Pokemon's ability, I thought Palafin was the worst evolution of all time, and I think that's why I like it so much now. The relief of this different superhero form being part of the design rather than just adding a heart on the chest was so huge. I used a Kilowattrel on my team until I replaced it with Baxcalibur eventually. While I used it though, it was super fast and powerful. This design is super solid and like Wattrel, gives me old Pokemon design vibes like Staraptor and Talonflame. Ting Lu is an absolute force of nature and I love it. The Pokedex in Violet says that this Pokemon slowly brings its heavy-ass bowl cut down to the ground and creates huge fissures, and I can totally see this Pokemon doing that. I also respect the power of real-life moose. They're absolutely giant and also real forces of nature. Iron Hands takes the robotic design of the future forms that I'm not in love with and makes it work for Hariyama. I like Hariyama by itself a lot anyways, so I was bound to think this form was decent. I like that the hands float and pulse electric shocks out of them. Garganacl was one of my main 6 team members throughout the game, and I really love it. It's like a regional variant of a Minecraft Iron Golem. And yes, I still love Minecraft. Knacklestack takes the Minecraft aesthetic and runs with it even farther. Similar to Arctibax, Knacklestack nails the balance between cute and cool for a rock-solid middle evolution. Speaking of middle evolutions, Crocalor is one. This Pokemon is admittedly ugly, but it's kind of ugly cute to me. I'm probably biased because I used one since I chose Fuecoco, but that's kind of the point of the video, so... Sprigatito is the starter that everyone fell in love with when it was first revealed. Sprigatito is high up in my list because it's a starter and it's a really cute cat. However, it is my least favorite of the 3 starters this gen because I think it's just kinda basic. Floragato is Sprigatito's evolution, and this middle stage is fantastic. They are really nailing these middle stages this gen. Yes, even though it's standing on 2 legs, this Pokemon is really cool. Puss in Boots, the Pokemon. Iron Valiant is the futuristic combination of Gardevoir and Gallade, and it is really cool, dude. It's a futuristic magical robot warrior, and it's here to kick gum and chew ass. Miraidon was cool from the moment it was shown in the trailer. It was instantly one of the coolest legendaries ever made. Again, I'm not as big into the futuristic designs as I am the ancient ones, but this Pokemon is still up there as one of the best this generation has to offer. Chi-Yu was an absolute treat breaking it from its seal. I knew that it was a fire dark type, but nothing else besides that. I'd already caught the other 3 ruinous legendaries, and all that was left was Chi-Yu. I figured it would be some epic lava monster, but instead, I was given a goldfish, and it was the most glorious surprise I could have asked for. I would have never guessed the final legendary would be freaking adorable. Ceruledge became one of my favorites the second it was revealed. Dark swordsman with flaming blades for hands, it's right up my alley. It's admittedly edgy as all hell, but in this particular case, I do not care. Starting off the top 10 is the best baked boy, Darkspun. I know this Pokemon is technically based on a Dachshund, but I couldn't help but see my fluffy corgi Nimbus in this Pokemon. Tell me I'm wrong. So naturally, I put one on my team and named it Nimbus. It's super cute and was surprisingly strong. It came in clutch at the end of more battles than you'd expect. At number 9 is my favorite of the ruinous legendaries, Chien-Pao. It seems to be a combination between a saber-tooth, snow leopard, and ferret? Maybe? I can't tell if I love the sword teeth or if I would have preferred giant real teeth instead. Either way, this Pokemon gets to be this high purely because of coolness. At number 8 is the evolution of Bisharp, King Gambit. When I first learned there was a Bisharp evolution, I was super excited to see what it looked like. After I evolved one though, I was a little disappointed at first. I still kind of think the design is a little too much, but for the most part, I'm over it. I used it on my endgame team and it quickly started becoming a favorite. Its Kowtow Cleave was one-shotting almost everything, and now that I was starting to like it, I noticed little things like its stance and how it's slightly putting more weight on one of his arms, and for some reason, it made me like the Pokemon that much more. Great Tusk is the Pokemon that really got me excited for this game. I was gonna play the game anyway. Pokemon is my favorite franchise, but seeing this new epic form of Donphan in the trailer was the most hype-inducing moment for me. It's just a shame you don't really get to use one on the adventure though. It would have been on my team in a heartbeat. Speaking of hype though, at number 6 is Koraidon. Koraidon was part of the very first reveal of Scarlet and Violet, and this legendary after the starters made me that much more excited. Koraidon is one of the best designed legendaries, right up there next to Giratina in my opinion. Not to mention, this Pokemon has a story and game that connects you to it more than any other legendary. You get to ride it and befriend it over the entire course of your journey. Obviously, Miraidon is the same way, but Koraidon feels more alive, as it's not robotic, and makes me feel like I'm training Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, which is my favorite movie, by the way. Honestly, I think that's the reason I love it so much. I get to tame a legendary dragon like I've always wanted. Starting off the top 5 is the final form of my chosen starter, Skeledirge. This Pokemon's design was a little odd to me at first, and I'm still not sure why they made it look so clunky and boxy. I'm able to look past that though because I became super close to it over the course of my playthrough. Its relationship with its Firebird is super cute to me, and I think it's way more interesting than the other starter evolutions. Another reason I love it is because of its cry. It really reminds me of Valu, the dragon's cry from Wind Waker. Once I heard its cry, I switched its nickname from Snapsinger to Valu and never looked back. At number 4 is Primeape's new evolution, Annihilape. Spoiler alert to my inevitable top 10 favorite Pokemon video. Infernape is my favorite, and Annihilape is like his angry, evil brother in my mind, and I love it. It was super strong, fast, and one of my aces alongside Skeledirge. It's a much needed and fitting evolution to Primeape. Seriously though, I can't get over how good it goes with my Infernape. They go together like Goku and Gohan. Oh hey, wait a second. Heading the top 3 is my starter choice this generation, Fuecoco. Fuecoco is on the same level of derpiness as Wooper and was always my choice of starter from the very beginning. It really stood out from the other two, and I just assumed it would have the most interesting evolution, and of course it was super cute. What made it especially cute was the cutscene at the beginning of the game, one of my favorite base form starters for sure. Speaking of base form starters though, as runner-up is Quaxly. I know I said Fuecoco was first choice from the start, and that is true. I also eventually made the decision based off of final evolutions, and Skeledirge was my favorite, so I went with it. However, throughout the waiting of Scarlet and Violet's release, I slowly started to fall in love with the simpleness of Quaxly's design. It's just a happy little duck dude with some hair. It kept growing and growing on me, and had just taken over Fuecoco as my choice the day before release. I only look at the leaks for starter evolutions and no other Pokemon, and I always do it the day of release, right before I choose my starter. I thought I was going with Quaxly, but I just didn't like its evolution enough to justify it. When I play Violet in a month or so, I think I'm going to pull an Ash Ketchum and leave my Quaxly unevolved. It's just too cute and simple and really fits my vibe, I think. Finally, at number 1, my favorite new Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet, super unexpectedly, is Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon is an ancient form of Salamence, and let me just say, it is dope as shit! I'm the type of guy who gets attached to his team members and they become my favorite Pokemon of that gen. That's why starters are often my favorites. You're with them for the entire game. But this one was a real curveball. Roaring Moon was literally the final Pokemon I encountered in the game, and it left that much of an impression. I'm like surprised it's my favorite. I don't even really like regular Salamence, but Roaring Moon is just so dope as shit. It's weird. I don't even really have anything special to say about it. I literally just like it because of how cool it looks, and that's all. When I was ranking the Pokemon for this list, I kind of just imagined in my head which one I would prefer, and when I got to Roaring Moon, I thought it would be in the mid-teens at the highest, but it just kept going up and up and up the ranks as I realized I just preferred it over everything else. And that, everyone, was all 107 new Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet, ranked from worst to best. I'm sure there will be DLC for these games, and I'm actually really excited to see what new Pokemon they introduce, because I'm sure there will be a couple at least. What's your favorite Pokemon from this generation? Let me know in a comment below, and also what other Pokemon videos you'd like to see. Thank you all for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.